Good evening, guys. What's up? It is the one and only African superstar back at it again with a live stream. Big shout outs to the family, the African superstar family. I've been a little bit busy the past week. I was preparing for a big festival concert over the weekend in a neighboring city called Kumasi. So I really was really busy. And I returned to Accra. You guys can see I'm actually prepared for bed. Huh? What? Yes, I woke up like this. This thought came onto my mind, and I said, should I do it tomorrow? But there's nothing like doing it today. So today I'm going to talk about this topic. Big shout outs if you guys are here. Please make your presence be known in the chat room. Don't forget to like the stream. If you love my content, subscribe so you can know what's going on with me and so on and so forth. Today's topic is those that consider and prepare for survival tend to survive. The unprepared perish. Yes. If you've been with me a little while on this channel, you know that I tend to talk a lot about survival. I talk about preparedness. I talk about kind of strategizing for the future and not delaying in doing that, because one thing's for sure, nobody ever regrets being prepared for detrimental situations. Nobody ever regrets having that money for a rainy day that they've been saving. No one ever regrets, putting in the infrastructure prior to chaos. People only regret not being prepared in the case of an emergency. There are so many analogies I could give you where it basically highlights the importance of being ready so that in the midst of a situation, you are prepared. Something as simple as a fire drill. Most of us that grew up in the Western world, I don't know if it's a thing here in Ghana. It doesn't really seem to be a thing here, but I know in Ohio where I grew up, we used to have fire drills in elementary school nearly every week, you know, so that in the event of a fire, that's not the time to try to figure it out. You know, um, you need to have things in place so that when things happen to you, you're ready. We cannot get beyond the fact of the matter that people that prepare, okay, people that put in those checks and balances, those people are much more likely to survive. People that just say, well, we'll see what happens. Oh no, that's never going to happen. It's impossible. Well, I'll plan for it in the future. Those people a lot of times become the casualties in situations because they're not ready, because they haven't taken any effort to put themselves together. Now, I'm not an evangelist, and this message will be for who it resonates with. But those that consider their survival, whatever that means to you, whatever that means. I know, for instance, prior to leaving the US in 2017, I just felt this urgency. I felt that things were going to deteriorate further. I based a lot of that off of the historical account of how our people have been being treated in America for centuries. There's not a generation where racial harmony has ever existed, where true equality has been exercised, never. And actually I've seen just the deterioration even through my lifetime in race relations and things like that. Now we're at 2025. We're at this stage of the game where I personally believe the environment in America is going to get extremely hostile and dangerous, much more, it's like, multiply the current measure by like 1,000, because consequences and reprimands often shape the world we live in. Okay. When those things are not there, people feel very, very bold to do what is in their soul. A lot of times those consequences and reprimands, even as you, if you can recall, your young adult days, your childhood days, unless you were just a wild rebel. But a lot of us, those checks and balances is what organize our whole life. Yeah, you wanted to cuss out your boss. You wanted to slap her, maybe. Okay. You wanted to act up. You know, you wanted to tell the teacher how you really felt about the grades they gave you. But you thought about the consequences. Okay, if I say this to the teacher, that could cause more problems. If it potentially escalated, I could get suspended. I could get expelled. I can, you know, definitely at your job, we all know the major consequence, which is you're going to get sacked, which translates into loss of revenue, which translates into hardship in your life. So these kind of parameters have organized our lives. And that's the same with society. So, considering that laws have been put into place because at one time that law did not exist. And there was seen a need for that law because of the general consensus or how things were being done. In some cases, wars had to be fought to create laws and a standard because society refused to do it proactively. What I'm saying, guys, I'm talking a bit in parables, but if you start observing what's going on around you in this 2025, the world that we're in, it really, really, really behooves you to start preparing for your tomorrow. Again, whatever that means. Because surely if you do nothing, your chances of survival are much lower, you know? And obviously, specifically for our people, the threat in the Western world is very, very, very real. You may have been fortunate up to this point to not have a personal encounter, but that doesn't mean that the threat is any less dangerous. Okay? Please don't let it get to dire straits before you try to make a decision about what you want to do. I will provide you some examples of how being ready, being prepared is always better. Okay? We see these wildfires that just ravaged in LA a couple weeks ago. I think there's still fires going on. I haven't watched much of it last week to keep updated. But, you know, there were some people, definitely a minority from what I could see, that understood the fact that they live in a region that is prone to these wildfires. And it actually invested and took certain precautions and used certain type of materials, building their houses or renovating their houses to give them the added, protection. And there have been some very striking images in the media where, there will be an entire neighborhood like decimated by these fires. And there'll be like one house that stood. In one of the interviews I watched, there was actually, a bit of a concrete partition between this house that had a bunch of the fire retardation materials and design and all the houses around it. And on the concrete partition, you could see ashes, the singes. You can see where the flames came right up to that perimeter, but somehow the house stood. I know it's never popular, and I know that our world is not a proactive one, unfortunately. Sometimes I ponder on it if it's by design that we're not more critical and we're not more proactive. Is it because if we were, we wouldn't make for the better consumer, we wouldn't make for the ignorant member of society who gets engaged in things and has a belief system that is manipulated, or if it's just human nature, if humans just don't like to think and prepare for the future. But those people were a few out of what I've seen so far in California. If any of you guys are there and have been to, the grounds that were affected or whatnot, you would know better. But, you know, going back to the ashes and seeing that their house stood had to be such a potential relief. I mean, I can't imagine how do you even quantify losing your whole house? Because there are memorable things inside of it. You know, your photos from your lifetime. I saw some people obviously like your wedding dress, heirloom antiques, things that have been passed down through generation, you know, so many things. On top of losing where you live, having to figure out a new arrangement. And unfortunately, for those of you guys with the mortgages, the bank doesn't give a damn that the house burned up. You're still liable for that mortgage. So you have to worry about working out your finances and all these things. It's crazy. But being prepared, okay, understanding the danger around you in whatever context that may be, and preparing yourself for potential outcomes. When I was moving to the UK, shout out to my big sister Michelle. Michelle sat on the phone with me for hours, you know, as we worked out these different scenarios of how life would be in Europe for me, if it would work, if it would be long term, and potential things that could go wrong. I mean, I spent the better part of probably a year getting ready for my move to the UK, in which I considered those different scenarios. So I moved with the most, you know, comprehensive plan that I could. And now we fast forward to, you know, 7 years later, and we see, oh yeah, Gina was actually successful in that endeavor. Why was I, you know, successful? I wasn't successful because I tried to wing it, you know, nor did I try to wing my living experience here in Ghana. Everything was well planned. That is one of the secrets to longevity. That is one of the secrets to survival. That is what a lot of people overlook. And there are some rogue people that say, well, you know, you can't make plans because you don't know what's going to happen and something always comes up. That may be true. Life be lifing. Adult life is unpredictable. However, however, when you have a blueprint in place, and better yet, if you have actually made contingencies for some likely outcomes or likely obstacles or problems that could arise, you know, part of my educational background is in project management, which I'm very well suited for because I am a planner and I'm someone who knows how to bring the conglomerate in to get the goal achieved. That's something that I utilize very often in my life. But contingencies is a part of project management. It's a part of what we study. You know, when you are creating a timeline for a project, you know, and you have your prospective completion date and all of this stuff, you have to budget, you know, for extra expenses, extra time. What are some problems that can arise, you know, and try to create the plan B, C, D for these things if they are to arise. Okay, so you can work those things into your plans. All right, if you're considering survival, you consider a myriad of outcomes. Okay, what happens if the water supply goes off? Okay, people that are survivalists, they will have a backup source of water. If they have their own land, they might invest in like a borehole where they can have their own water source, or they have purification methods, or they have stockpiled water. Okay, what happens if there's no electricity? You know, these people will have things in their homes or skills to know how to start fires, or, you know, these are some examples. When we look at, for instance, the military, all right, anybody who is in the room that's a veteran, let me see. And number one, big shout out to African Superstar family. We have 12 of you guys here. I'm going to start with the comments in a minute. So make your presence be known in the chat room. You can let me know where you're watching us from and be a part of the conversation. Okay. Those that consider their survival and prepare tend to survive. Okay. The unprepared perish. Simply put, because in a crisis situation, that's not the time for you to try to work it out. Okay. That's never the time. Shout outs to my veterans in the building. Yes. So, those of you guys that have been in the military of some sort, whatever, you all start with what? Basic training. Hello. They're not about to take someone from off the street with no knowledge, no fitness, no tactical training. They're not about to put you out there on the front lines in that condition. The first and foremost thing that you learn in the military or the police or whatever is basic training. Firemen. I have a couple cousins that are firemen. Shout outs to Mark, Matt, and Marlon, my cousins that are all into firefighting. Having those skills in you for the time that it arises. If you can just give yourself a visual of being on a battlefield, okay, and the enemy starts shooting at you, the enemy throws a grenade your way, or whatever. Okay, that's not the time for you to figure out, oh my God, how do I put this ammunition in the gun? How am I supposed to move? I need to be incognito. That's not the time for you to be trying to figure that out. More or less, if you have a routine in place of how you're going to deal with certain things, like I gave the example previously of the fire alarm, okay, the fire drills rather. Okay, got to the point that me as a young child, I knew when the fire alarm, which exit to go to, where to meet my classmates, what to do if you caught fire, some of your clothes became ignited, or because we did it so often that it kind of became second nature. Okay, planning for survival is fantastic. Putting those safeguards in. Obviously, I can also use having options. I talk about options on this channel. Obviously, for me and for many other Black people across the world, the African option is fantastic for us. For some of you, maybe some other options may be the option. But having those options in place, set up, accessible, is critical. Most Westerners of my generation, we have never experienced like warfare on our soils. There's been a couple questionable things that have happened and have been labeled as terrorist attacks, but that's neither here nor there. We don't know if they are or if they were inside jobs, but nonetheless, we have had the benefit of the doubt of not experiencing that. But I would tell you that a country that is going through war, your whole life is upended. Let's use Ukraine as an example. Let's use Congo or the Sudan. You may not even have a stance on whatever these countries are doing, but suddenly you find yourself embroiled in it because you're living there. And I would go as far to say that the majority of Americans, the majority of British people, they have not even entertained the concept of alternative living. I know that a lot of very extremely wealthy people in California were affected. I can guarantee you some of those people, they have properties in other locations. So in as much they lost that residence or whatever, they're not going to be homeless, or they have options, or they have somewhere else to go. We saw this during COVID, people that had options, foreign residences, private planes, they had the means to go be somewhere that they felt that they would be safer. Wealthy people that live up north, Chicago, New York, Ohio, Michigan, some of them have options. They have summer homes, they have vacation homes, they have the timeshare, they have the condo. When the winter comes, you don't see them because they duck out of there. Okay. In the midst of the crisis is not the time. Now, some of you guys now find yourself in America with a lot of the new, the things that are going on with your new president. And it's probably sinking in that, wow, what kind of situation am I in? And, now it's like, okay, I need to really, really get something in place because, you probably didn't adequately prepare beforehand. But this is what I've been talking about. Survival is key. And now you're going to have to try to figure out the best way to navigate your current environment because the existential danger is there, guys. Let me tell you. I don't care if you're an African. I don't care if you're a Black American or if you're a Chickasaw. Okay. To the non-Black man, all right, we all go in the same bucket. The danger is real. The danger is elevated. The danger is there. And you need to do your best to try to avoid some of those things. But obviously, you can't avoid everything, but I don't know. you know, I just think that being prepared is the quintessential thing. And so it was on my mind to share this message with you guys. Um, our motto for 2025 on the channel is say less, do more. And I just really want to reiterate that. It's time now for the rubber to meet the road for some of you guys that have been doing a lot of talking and have not been organizing yourself. You can actually gain a lot of ground when you are serious about things. You can accomplish things in a year that maybe for 5 or 10 years you've been casually talking about or dibbling and dabbling. When you put your focus in, when you put maximum effort, when you put that investment or whatever is required to bring that thing into life. But it really, really behooves you guys to try to figure out options, and do it. Do it expeditiously. All right. Big shout out to the family. I'm going to come through and read some of these comments. Yes, guys. Beacons of Light, I see you there. Good to see you. Yes, yes, yes. Beacons of Light says we are distracted and too focused on surviving in systems designed to keep us busy, preoccupied consumers, etc. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's part of the smoke and mirrors is, and that's something I realized years ago was I'm so preoccupied with my day-to-day, work and commute and, living and all this stuff that you don't really have the time sometimes unless you carve out time and make it a priority that no, I am going to design my emergency plan. Another example of being prepared is, and a lot of you guys may have already experienced this, shout out to my homegirl Monica, she's dealing with this problem right now as we speak, is after a death in the family. Hello. A lot of our people, unfortunately, do not like to plan for their ending, although we know it's coming. It's definitely coming. And we don't organize our estates. We don't, write a will, or we don't work out how those things are going to be distributed. And it becomes a huge, big wahala. We don't take out life insurance policies for our families to cover our debts or whatever. And it just becomes a huge, big thing. Okay, being prepared, considering your survival, what's going to happen, it makes life easier all the way around for you, for those that are close to you, for everything. I would definitely say for some of you guys that, live in La Vida Loca and then you have kids, yeah, get that emergency plan worked out. Get those estate things worked out. People unfortunately are dying in their young adult days these days, dying young. And it's just good practice to have it worked out than to not have it worked out. But again, I know, that part of the smoke and mirrors of America is you're so busy with that day to day. You're so busy with that day to day, you don't have the time. You're not thinking about in 20 years. You're not thinking about, okay, when I retire. It seems like a fantasy world. Well, let me tell you guys, listen, the years are flying by. Every day we're growing older. And I've seen, unfortunately, some of my mom's friends that, they didn't even consider their retirement. Now they're senior ages, and some of them having financial problems. This does also happen to immigrants a lot. They think that they talk about, oh, when I grow old, I'm going to return back to my country of origin. I hear it all the time from Ghanaians and Nigerians. And my thing is, like, if you're not actively working towards that, you're not going to retire back home, because by the time you get in your 60s or 70s, you might not have a property, you may not have things worked out, you may not have organized your finances, and therefore you're going to be stuck in the West. And there's plenty elderly, immigrant people in the West that are in that situation, that they thought they were going to go home. They talked about going home, but because they didn't organize it, they're not going anywhere. Shout outs. What's up? What's up? Bawana, I see you there. Yes, Ghana is good for me. Ghana is good for me. Yes, I'm doing very good. I'm happy. I'm a little tired because I had a wild weekend at a concert in another town. A bunch of my artist friends, we had a good time. It was good to see everybody. There's an annual festival that I do there in Bantama. Shout outs to all my Ashantis down in Osikrom. It was amazing to go to Bantama, and I actually did a short. I had one of the best Ghanaian dishes while I was in Kumasi over the weekend. It's called gobe. It's a dish of gari and beans, and it was so delicious. Shout out to my Ghana fo in the building. Gobe is a staple food here, but man, that Ashanti gobe was off the hook. So yeah, I'm trying to recover from that. I'm going to have a good rest tonight. IAS production, shout outs to our servicemen and women. I asked a question about anybody who's in the military, being prepared. You go through that basic training. It's the first thing you do. Matter of fact, if you don't pass that training, you can't go. They're going to dismiss you. They're going to discharge you if you're not fit. Big shout outs to the African Superstar family. Jennifer Edie, hi sweetheart, how are you doing? Janelle Harris, I am not a part of the LGBT community, so I'm probably not the best person to ask. But I know that, you would probably want to go to a country that that is accepted in. So if you're looking outside of the continental US, Canada, European countries, Australia. I mean, to be quite frank with you, Africa probably is not going to be your move, because it is not, it's frowned upon across the continent. They're much more conservative and traditional in that respect. And in some parts, in some countries, you know, being out and about and conducting yourself in such a way, it's going to lead to quite severe consequences. I mean, I've heard stories here in Ghana as well. Certain parts of the country, if they suspect that you're part of that community, or you're doing things, or you're displaying it in public, it's been as extreme as people losing their lives. So I wouldn't probably recommend the continent for members of the LGBT, because it's not acceptable here. I would say you need to be in places where it is accepted. So that would obviously, the inception of a lot of that stuff is in Europe. So most European countries are really liberal when it comes to that. But again, you would need to do your research. I'm pretty sure you can get online and ask. I know that there was a map. I saw there was a map for the LGBT, like a travel map that showed countries that were like hostile and countries that were welcoming or opening, and they had those countries green, and they had the danger countries red, and basically most of Africa was all red except for South Africa, because I believe, they practice in South Africa openly and whatnot. What's up, family? Jennifer Turson, I see you there. Yes. Please be prepared, guys. That's what the message is about tonight. Yes. I want you guys to do well and be safe out there. Michael O, thank you so much for the greeting. Hello. Is it Anane or a name? I don't know. You got to put that pronunciation in there, because this name, I don't know. It could either be Anane or a name. So put the pronunciation in for me so I make sure I say it correctly. I'm doing well. Thank you for stopping by to see me. Guys, make sure you like the stream, okay? Michael says, I have disengaged from North America by about 30% at this point, and I will make it up to 80% by the end of the year. I have always wanted to follow my ancestral footpaths by becoming a modern day farmer, despite my several international degrees and experience in chemical engineering. Okay, Michael. Well, no time like the present. I mean, I tell you guys realistically, I have an adult audience. We have fewer days ahead than behind. And there's no point in prolonging, pursuing things that are important to you, pursuing your dreams. I mean, you should go for it. And planning is critical in that. And if you want to be successful, I mean, if you really look at successful people, all right, if you want to quantify successful people, you will see that they plan. Nobody just fell into, oh, I'm the CEO of this Fortune 500 company. I'm, the most talented athlete, an Olympic champion. I'm this, I'm that. I'm a best-selling author. You know, and dummies try to discourage people from planning and living by the seat of their pants. Yeah, you always have a probability that things might work out, but the probability of failure is very high. Seriously. I mean, it's like you going in and taking an exam and you've done no preparation. Yeah, some students are outliers, some students are geniuses or whatever, and they may do well. But most of us, yeah, if you don't prepare for that test, hello, you're going to fail. Or, you go take your driver's test and it's the first time you've ever sat in a car. The probability that you're going to do well is not high. And that's just the reality. And I know why a lot of people try to deflect and a lot of people try to deny, oh, you're just a conspiracy theorist. And, a lot of Black Americans, unfortunately, they say, well, this is my home in America and I'm gonna stick it out. Bro, at this point, it's about what's going on around you. Looking at the reality of the place you live, you are greatly outnumbered. If you're not like a militia survivalist and you're living in the midst of a bunch of, what? See, I'm from Ohio, and I mean, as soon as you get outside the city limits, it's nothing but them rural kind of, I'd say, Trump supporters, them country hillbilly types and all of that. I don't want to be out there alone with them in a worst case scenario. I just don't. You know what I mean? It just seems like it's just not a good idea. It's just not a good idea. And the fact that they really don't have no love for us, that they just kind of tolerate us a bit, they don't even think we deserve our humanity, our equality, our protection, our rights. Like, it's not a safe place to be in, and we've seen them basically eradicate a whole race, ethnicity of people, the real Native Americans. You know what I'm saying? Because that's always a question for me that I have, which is, okay, the Black Native Americans, somehow they have survived, but all the full-blood Native Americans are very, very few. I think like 1% of the population. They've all been pushed to a few reservations in the country. So how did the Black Native Americans, how are they so abundant, out there? But the actual full-blooded Native Americans are very, very few. I don't know. But anyway, it's better to be prepared. I don't want to find out. I don't want to find out how bad things can be. I don't want to find out how bad it can get. I don't want to find out how dangerous, I don't want to find out. So, like I said, before I moved, I felt that sense of urgency even back then, which was like, it's been a while now. But I tell you guys all the time, I'm really happy with my decision to remove myself from that situation. And it's also relieving, it's a relief, because I think a lot of our people, we take on unnecessary stress for external things that are going on that we don't have any control over, but unless you are having options and exercising your options, they will impact you. They will be a part of your life. They will be concerning to you because you don't have any options. And I know some people are having buyer's remorse with Trump because they were deluded. They were deluded in what they were going to get. From what I understand, for instance, he's doing a lot of mass deportations in the Mexican community. And what this means for my American viewers is higher costs of food. Because from what I understand, a lot of those Latinos, they do farming. In California, they pick the tomatoes, they pick the strawberries, and they do it for minimum wage. Something that Americans are not going to do. Working these long hours out in the fields. I'm sure that's hard work. It's manual work. And I saw on TikTok this morning, there was a Mexican guy. He went out to the farm and he said he normally had about 30, 35 workers that would help him with the, pick the produce. And nobody was there. Everybody must have been illegal. Everybody got deported. And so he said, hey, this is what's coming to the US because and in other words, yes, food is going to become expensive, but guess what? If you know anything about agriculture, this also can potentially mean shortages of food. Because when produce is out there in the field and it's time to harvest it, if you don't get it within a certain amount of time, it does what? It goes bad, right? So then that means the quantities that they normally ship to the stores or whatever, they're not going to have them because they don't have the manpower to retrieve them from the fields. You see, and like I said, I know people have a buyer's remorse because they emotionally got caught up in things thinking that it was going to be another way. And now the reality is setting in and it's like, ooh, damn. But again, those that consider their survival and prepare for it, people that have been seeing cardinal signs about the life in America for our people for years, for decades. You know what I'm saying? Like, how many thousands of I've literally been made aware of thousands of deaths of young Black men and women in my lifetime living in America. There was a shooting on the north side of town. Police shot this one. This, that. I got a message just couple days ago from my really good friend. Apparently there was a Ghanaian who traveled to Canada a week ago. And he was assaulted and killed on his job by a non-Black colleague. Stabbed him 17 times over some kind of altercation. And, we don't want to realize the harsh facts because our diaspora likes to segment themselves and be divisive and no, we're Jamaicans and no, we're Afro-Latinos and no, we're indigenous and all this stuff, nonsense. But to the outside world, we're all Blacks. We're all Africans. That's how they see it. And that's how they treat us. And immigrants that think, it's really crazy because I know that there is a sentiment in various African communities where they kind of, they kind of isolate themselves to the general public. They think certain things that happen to, Black British or Black Americans is not going to happen to them because, hey, they're just going to work. They're just staying low. Well, violent crimes are on the rise towards the African diaspora because of what I'm talking about. To them, they just see another Black man or woman. They don't know that you're from Ghana. They don't know that you are, Yoruba or Igbo. They don't know. They don't know. They don't know that you just came a week ago from Africa. Nor do they care. And that's what, I don't want to say I fear because I don't really, I'm not that emotionally invested. I have to be honest with you guys. I'm not that emotionally invested in what takes place in the West anymore because I have been able to free myself from that. Like I told you, it's a humongous, tremendous burden of your environment that our people are dealing with. But when I do ponder over it, I feel really concerned for you guys. I really do. Because we don't actually know what, when we hear those stories, for instance, like pre-civil rights of, Black people being hosed in the streets and people sicking their dogs on them. And lynching was widespread in the American South. Okay, we have not physically endured that or experienced that. And a lot of the legislation that was instituted was to prevent those things from happening. And I just feel like it's going to get so ugly because it was a huge fight for those things to be instilled. And things are being stripped and things are being removed. I mean, he has no allies. I want to tell you guys that. Shout out to Blockavelli. I see you there. Michael Pan's in the building. He says America and Canada are getting worse. Period. And that's what this message is about. For those of you guys that see the writing on the wall, it's no long talking. It's not, I'm not an evangelist. I'm not going to scream and hoop and holler and tell you. But if you can see what's happening, and you are smart and you're willing to, devise something and save yourself before stuff hits the fan, please, 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 I really advise you to do it. I really do, because you don't want to be there when stuff hits the fan. For a lot of people, stuff is hitting the fan right now. I mean, if we can put ourselves in the shoes of the illegal aliens that just got mass deported, I tell you what, if they were not preparing to eventually go back home or saving money or maybe building a home back home, they're going back with nothing. Hello? When you get deported, you don't have time to go to your house and collect your things. You don't have time to talk to, make phone calls, make arrangements. Okay, just give me a month so I can get my bearings. I need to do. No. When they come and round you up, that's it. It's over from there. You're going to detention and then you're going back. And that's what it is. And so, you have that going on. Then you have the California fires. People have been rendered, made homeless overnight. A lot of things are going on, guys. And if you don't want to be in that situation, that you're just an inch away from distress and chaos, then it really behooves you to make alternative plans. I'm telling you, you will never regret doing it. You will not. If you're someone who is interested in the continent, you will never regret having this option. I'm telling you, you will never regret. Even if you work on it gradually, bit by bit, even if you're not ready to fully pivot here or you can't manage it, but if you're just kind of investigating, you're traveling, you're getting your bearings, you're putting things into place, the day comes you need that option, You will be so grateful that you already have it set up. Trust me. Trust me. You will never regret this option. If you love Africa, you've trust me, you'll never regret it. You know, I have never not once regretted waking up here in Ghana to the sunshine. You know, the relationships I've made here, I mean, it's fantastic. This whole chapter of my life is absolutely incredible. Seriously. I know now I wasn't living. I was not living when I was in the West. I was not living at all. I was, I was, I don't even want to say surviving because it was, you know, it's hand to mouth lifestyle. You know, let me just say I was indentured. I don't want to say I was a slave, but yo, indentured. You know, property of Chase Bank, property of United Healthcare. You know, hate the job, hate the people, but yo, if I don't go, can't make this car payment, can't pay the rent. You know, not going to have a little bit of money to travel or buy a new outfit. You know what I'm saying? It's what kind of existence is that? No, please get yourself together. Shout outs to Denise. What's up, family? Anane. I'm just going to say Anane because you haven't told me how to pronounce your name, so I hope I'm saying it right. Big shout out to the African Superstar family. But Juana says, yeah, when you get deported, that's it. That's it. You do not get time to rectify yourself and get it all together. No. So you see, and again, this is another point. Actually, thank you for bringing this up, Buana. When you are an immigrant in a foreign country, I'm of the thinking it's always great to have something in your home. I'm sorry, your home country, because you don't know what can happen in these foreign lands. Real talk. You do not know what can happen in these foreign lands. You know, just the fact that you are undocumented, that's not the only reason that they can deport you. They can deport you at any point. If they want to, they can trump up charges against you and remove you. And that's it. In the UK, you know, I've seen several cases where people were born and raised in England or migrated when they were, you know, very young children or toddlers, and somehow they're getting deported in their adulthood after they spent 30, 40 years living in England. Listen, in the gospel of Project Pat, he said, ain't nobody cool. Have it in the back of your mind that, yeah, I might live here in this country. I might be in Canada. I might be, you know, this is a pro tip for Ghanaians, Kenyans, Nigerians, all you immigrants out there that have moved to the West and you've gotten real comfortable and you think it's all good. Trust me. Never forget, Simba, never forget who you are, where you come from. Very, very important, because at any time these countries can get fooling. And then if, for instance, like I said, these folks that are getting sent back to Mexico, if they have not been setting themselves up back in Mexico, they are screwed, because whatever they had, they probably had it in America. And that's it. I don't even know if they let them take, you know, their bank account money or anything. I don't think you get to retrieve nothing. That's from what I've heard. You know, they catch you, they take you to detention, you stay in detention until it's time to go. In some cases, some people retain lawyers and, you know, try to take it to court and all of that. But I don't think probably in this Trump world, even that you have recourse. So yeah, as an immigrant in these foreign countries, you should always have one of your toes, feet, arm, something in the motherland. You never know. Michael Pan says Philip Scott fully supports deporting illegal immigrants back to their home country because they hurt Black Americans financially, mentally, and physically. Well, Black Americans about to see what it's like without them, you know, and I hope that the ramifications, because this is a very similar story to what happened in England following the Brexit. I was living in England at the time when they passed the Brexit, and I saw the change of everything. And the reality is, these Western countries actually thrive and depend on cheap immigrant labor. Yes, they do. They talk the talk, but at the end of the day, they depend. Because most Americans and most British are not going to do the jobs that the immigrants do. Huh? Most Americans, most British are not going to do the jobs that the immigrants do. Just like when the Africans go to England, when the Africans come to America, they do the jobs that what the Americans would not do, don't want to do. In England, the healthcare system, that is where most immigrants get funneled into. If not that, warehousing, night shift jobs and all this stuff. It's not like you see, Jose running J.P. Morgan Chase. Huh? It's not like, okay, the owner of Amazon is Fidel. No, they are doing menial manual work a lot of times. And the hypocrisy of Donald Trump, because the Latino community, the Mexican community, actually built his Trump resorts. They are the ones who did the construction. They are the ones who did that. And just like any other business owner, they're always looking for ways that they can maximize their profits. How does a company maximize their profits? By eliminating high expenses in their business. So if they can find people they can pay cheaper, or they can get construction on their projects done for cheaper, of course. And when people are under the table, okay, meaning they got to be paid by cash because they're not legal, they don't have bank accounts, they don't have IDs, they don't have status in the country, they accept lower pay. Hello. And America knows this, and the Western world knows this. So guess what? Without those immigrants, I 100% guarantee you will see a change in the quality of life. And the other thing about it is, guys, it's a slippery slope. Donald Trump is not just going for the Latinos. No, he's not. He's coming for all diversity. Okay, he's attacking the LGBT. Black Americans are next. Okay, don't get it twisted. There's no line of demarcation. I'm a Trump supporter. In your delusional world, you're a Republican conservative. You're in the crowd. You're a divester. You got your white husband, white wife. You think it's crazy. Philip Scott. I mean, there's been a lot of talk about it. But Philip Scott is married to a Latino woman, a Mexican woman. So, I mean, it's crazy because his wife is an immigrant. And I think sometimes, to recuse yourself from some things might be ideal, because so that you don't get seen as a hypocrite. Like some of the people that live in Africa and doing business in Africa got, married in Africa, whatever, but all they do is slam Africa. You're not serious, because you're an oxymoron. You're talking about things that you're doing, but you're saying, oh yeah, whatever. And the irony is, guys, listen, a lot of people that are immigrants, they have gone through a transitional period, whatever that means, where, they may have had to get their documents legal, or they may have, they may have had to do what they had to do to get themselves citizenship or get legal status. It's crazy for you to, be in a position of judgment now, because there's other people that are going through that transition real time. You went through it in the past, but now all of a sudden, you're like, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. But hey, like I said, I'm not there for the day-to-day minutia of it all. You guys that are there for the day-to-day. So I think you will see what this actually means and how this actually translates. I mean, in the UK, we know following Brexit, the cost of living has skyrocketed. Um, there has been a change. There are shortages in the NHS, there are shortages everywhere. They've been striking nonstop since Brexit. Because again, the immigrants that were in England, they were doing the hospitality, they were doing the healthcare, they were doing the night jobs, they were doing the warehousing, they were doing the jobs that the white British don't want to do. So it's always lip service when I hear Westerners talk about, yeah, these immigrants are taking our jobs. You're not about to do that job that they did. You are not finna do that job. It's not like you went toe to toe with Jose and Jose beat you out. It's not like that. Okay, it's not like that. I have never literally, if I've gotten beat out for anything, I've got beat out by a white. Okay, I've got beat out by a white. I have never been beat out of any position, any of my corporate positions by any immigrant person. But that's my opinion. You know what I'm saying? Okay, Anane, I'm doing it right. All right, perfect. Blockavelli says, especially Mexicans being so close, they should have been setting up a base back home. I mean, it's the advice I'm going to give any immigrant person in the West. We can also use the case study of Ukraine. I know personally there was a lot of Ghanaian students that were in Ukraine. They were probably, knowing how a lot of immigrants are, probably totally clueless to these tensions between Russia until Russia invaded Ukraine. Then they woke up. They woke up, because you can't get too comfortable in these countries. You cannot get too comfortable. And the Western world stays in conflicts. They stay in other people's business. They stay doing nonsense. Okay. So the probability, the reality of them getting into a situation and it impacting you negatively because either A, you're an American or a British, or you live in the country, is high. When you travel, for instance, you travel with that American passport, people see it and they're gonna already start, or they hear your accent, they're gonna start, sizing you up because of it. And I remember when Trump and Hillary Clinton were campaigning, and I was traveling. I went to South Africa, and I went to Germany as well. And everybody wanted to talk about the election with me. I remember I was actually in Germany, and this man stopped me at this coffee shop, and he was like, "Do you mind if I ask you a couple of questions? I'm doing political science at my university, and I want to ask you a couple questions about the election." And I was like, "Okay, you instantly are a representative of the country and the international community, and that can be good or bad depending on what is happening in the country." You know what I mean? People can have a certain type of, and I would say, I've seen it said on other blogs, but a lot of people are not looking as highly on Americans as they have in the past because of the political things that are happening in the country. So I say any immigrant should be having their situation going on at home, a backup, fallback plan, whatever, retirement, especially if you illegal. If you illegal, that means if you get caught, you have no recourse at all. So you better be funneling money back home to get yourself worked out, just in case. Just in case, because when you get deported, from what I understand, you cannot return to the country anymore, legally. So, yes. All right, family. Michael Penn says African immigrants should know that there are several African countries that they can migrate to. America, Canada, and other Western countries are evil and wicked. What's up, Lewis? I see you there. Hello, sweetie. Good to see you. Blockavelli says America is built and runs on expectation. Always has, always will. Yes. Michael O, listen, I know you guys are Trump supporters. Hey, good luck to you. You know, I'm not political and I don't live there, so you know, we'll see. But I mean, what I'm seeing is what Trump is doing is a slippery slope. See, because he's coming out swinging on everybody. In his first week in office, he done went for everybody. He done went for the immigrants, okay, with the deportations. He done went for the LGBT with the clarifying of genders, and he's also going for the Black Americans. You know, adjusting the civil rights legislation. You know, he's going for everybody, all for one. You know, and so hey, we'll see how it plays out. Well, I mean, you know, we'll see how it plays out because again, I don't know how anything is relative to the other. You know, from my experience, the jobs that the immigrants do are jobs that Americans don't want to do. You know what I mean? I have never ever been in competition with an immigrant ever. As someone who's been born and raised in America, I don't ever feel like they've impeded on my lifestyle ever. The biggest, you know, impotence to my whole life has been whites. Realistically, Jose, he's not a, you know, he's not a threat. Louise, you know what I'm saying? Even Heidi, you know, it's just I have just not had that experience. So I don't know. But then again, hey, I've been out of the country now for several years. So maybe the last 4 years I haven't lived there. So maybe, you know, I mean, this is true. But again, Michael Penn, I know you always are discussing Philip Scott for some reason. I have to say, this is not Philip Scott's channel. You can always go to his channel and whatnot, because this is not actually the topic. You know, Phil Scott is not the topic. How he feels is how he feels. And like I said, I'm not in the country. I haven't been there for the last 4 years. So, you know, I just know that on social media, I see a lot of regurgitated information. People tend to say the same things, even if they don't really think it through. And that's what I know, because I know a lot of people are also having buyer's remorse with the Brexit when they saw what the reality of the UK was like following Brexit. And now, you know, I know that travel is about to change for British people now, because see, prior to that, when they were part of the European Union, you could live and work in any of the other European Union countries with your British passport. And so therefore that was the issue, was that other foreigners would come and live and work in England, and they didn't like that. Obviously they liked the ability to go live in other countries, but they didn't like the fact other people could come in theirs because of the European Union. So they wanted to separate from the European Union and then require those people that were, you know, wanting to come into England to get the, you know, the typical visas or all of this. Well, it had negative impacts on the country, you know. So we'll see. We'll see if you guys are happy with what he is doing. Big shout outs to the African Superstar family. All right. No, Michael Penn, I'm not particularly unnerved by immigrants realistically, because I feel like they're not my competition. I mean, I don't see them as competition. Like I said, I've never had any negative experiences with the immigrant that I could recall. And I don't really know where this pitting of each other is, you know, coming from, really. Because it seems like, at least from what I know about the Mexican community, there's quite a substantial Mexican community in Columbus. Obviously, it's grown more than it was when I was there, but they kind of stay in their corner. They got their Mexican restaurants. I know they do construction. I know they do agriculture. And these are not areas where they are really competing with Black Americans per se. You know what I'm saying? So again, it's not like us versus them, but obviously that mantra of divide and conquer is how American politics are played. Always want you to think that, okay, I'm a Democrat, so the Republican's the enemy. Or I'm a Republican, the Democrat's the enemy. And obviously we see what has happened between the Black community, because we look at each other instead of seeing the similarities and unity. We segment ourselves, and that is definitely a product of the white man, because that's the white man's mentality. So now it's okay, is Black Americans against Latinos? I don't know. I mean, maybe in a country, in a state where they're huge, like maybe California, maybe Black Americans in California feel like, okay, these Latinos have just like encroached in in the state. I don't know, but I never had that experience. So I don't have the perspective on immigrants that I would say like a lot of Americans have. You know what I'm saying? Like, to me, I just don't have that perspective. Jennifer Turkson says, all the men that chastising immigrants are married to immigrants. That's a good point, Jennifer. JD Avance's wife is Indian. Trump, the mastermind's wife, Millennium, was actually overstayed her visa until she met Trump. I mean, that's the thing. That's the thing. That's the thing. You know what I mean? Michael says, in California, Asians and Hispanic make up the majority of the population. Black Americans make up a small population. Okay, yeah. So I mean, again, it's not a. Now I have heard quite a bit about, apparently there's like an immigrant situation in Chicago. That the communities have been having some static, and obviously New York, but New York is like a state of immigrants. I mean, it historically has been. I mean, matter of fact, I mean, when we look at the origins of most people that are living in America, they have immigrants in their family, both near and far. And that's the reality. So I don't understand all this anti-immigrant stuff, especially when I know that the government is basically sanctioning it. You know what I'm saying? Like, the government is sanctioning it. The government causes a lot of destability in the rest of the world, which leads to migration, because obviously, hey, if you're pillaging and you're supporting terrorist movements and all this stuff in people's countries, making it unlivable or making the economy poor or making it, not safe to live, then they have to what? Go look for greener pastures. If they had greener pastures in their home, maybe they might stay. For places like Ghana, for instance, is actually quite nice to live. It's more of the colonialism and the brainwashing that has made the West look so glamorous and make it like, oh, there's so much opportunity there. And so that's more of a psychological, situation, in as much that there's also destabilization of the economy and depreciation of the currency and these kind of things. It creates a dynamic where people may look for greener pastures because life in their country is a bit difficult. So I don't know, because I often think if the West really didn't want immigrants, there's a lot of things they could do, and apparently they provide aid to a lot of countries, but they don't really provide aid because things are really getting better. So, so I don't know. There's a lot of smoke and mirrors out here, guys. I mean, I don't have all the answers, but the moral of this episode is those that plan, those that consider their survival are much more likely to survive than those that don't. And so Read between the lines of this episode. It goes out to who understands and those that hear the call. Do the needful. Get your backup plan in place. I literally have been saying this for years. One of my girlfriends called me the other day and she's like, Gina, you've been talking about this stuff for years. I literally have been talking about it for years. And not only that, I've provided you an example, So the rest is up to you. Big shout outs. Thank you so much for that super chat. I see you there, brother. Yes, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Big shout outs. What's up? Let me get this here. Let me finish these up. Wow. Let's see. How are you guys doing today? I hope you guys are doing good. Let's see here. Okay, yeah, I was on that. I was on. Okay. God's Child says Trump's deportation efforts and abortion ban is because the white population is dwindling. If things continue as is, whites will become the minority by 2050 and lose control of the government. Definitely. And I mean, that's been being talked about for decades. The lower birth rates in these Western countries, the whites. But then again, like I said, they could be incentivizing them. They could, if they want them to reproduce, they should create situations that are conducive. I mean, with this cost of living, I mean, having multiple kids in the Western world is really, really expensive. So, I don't know. But maybe that's one of Trump's next, initiatives. Let's see what he does. Again, I mean, I know some other countries, they provide support for new families or, I know a friend of mine is in Germany. When she gave birth, she got 3 years of maternity leave paid from her job. Yeah. I think in America you get what? Maybe 90 days, 60 days. I don't know. Any mothers in here, how long is the maternity leave in America or England? Let me know for anybody who's given birth in America or England, because I'm not sure, but I know it's not 3 years though. I know that because I remember that the girl, the friend of mine that gave birth in Germany, her partner, they're no longer together, but at the time they were together. She was in Germany. Okay, they started in Germany. He moved to the US. She stayed in Germany. She didn't want to come to America because she knew that the benefits were better in Germany for her. And so, but I met her on a visit when she came to the US. And, she was like, I don't want to come here because the maternity benefits are not even comparable. You know what I'm saying? So let me know for those of American ladies who's given birth or UK ladies, how long is the maternity leave? Okay. Blockavelli says, we criticize immigrants for taking jobs, but no one holds the owner class accountable for offering those jobs for cheap labor. That's a good point too. That's a good point too. That's why I'm telling you, all this stuff is orchestrated. And people that don't think about it, I mean, I know there's a shortage of critical thinkers, but think about it. Think about it. How are these illegal people able to get houses, cars? You know what I'm saying? Like, how are they able to live and survive and matriculate? Like, people know that they are there. People know that they are there. And like I told you guys, here in Ghana, they're actually advertised. Have you thought about continuing your education in Canada? Have you thought about moving to the US? Yeah, they have these adverts with white people on them, inviting these people to come and move to the Western world. Why exactly would an advert be suggesting something like that? I never saw an advert when I was young. I never saw an advert. Have you thought about continuing your education in France? Have you thought about moving to Latin America? Never, not once. As an American, I never saw any advert like that. You know what I'm saying? So they're actually recruiting a lot of these people to come, because, I mean, again, they fly in. I mean, I do realize, okay, some of them, they do cross the border. They go through Canada or they go through Mexico. But again, it's not like it's a secret. It's definitely a known. You know what I'm saying? It's definitely known. Big shout out to the family. God's Child says there are only about 20 million immigrants in America out of 320 million regular Americans. Okay. I don't know the figure, so we're going to go with your figure. But yeah. IAS Productions, immigrants from anywhere and into any country brings different perspectives and another way of doing things that may benefit that country, but it's the government's job to regulate the immigrants' growth. I agree. I agree. There has to be some protocols. Obviously, you don't want the country wide open because bad people could be coming in. Bad people could be coming in. Criminals could be coming in. Drug cartels and all that. There definitely needs to be screening. There definitely needs to be protection. But I don't know about the way things are getting done. In such a drastic measure, there's definitely going to be a clapback. And I just don't know if Americans are ready for that. But that's why I'm talking about, planning to survive and watching what's going on around you and trying to ready yourself for worst case scenarios. In my opinion, I don't know. I know that promises are being made to improve the country, but I don't know if it's going to improve, bro. And I don't want to be there to see it getting worse. Because if you guys have grievances now, just imagine what worse looks like. I don't want to experience that. So that's why, yes, I've tried to plan. IAS Production, thank you so much for that super chat. I'm doing well. Thank you for looking out for me. I hope you are doing well too. Big shout outs. What's up? What's up? What's up? There has to be maternity leave, Michael Pan. And anyway, I asked the ladies, you're clearly a man. Okay? You're clearly a man. So how do you know about maternity leave? All right. Big shout. Superstar Bella says 6 weeks in the US. Wow. So that's like a month and a half. That's it. Oh, that I don't even think that's enough time to heal up. Wow. 6 weeks. That doesn't seem like a lot. God's Child. In America, maternity leave is 6 weeks. You will get FMLA unpaid for 3 months. Wow. Michael Pan, yes, it's definitely true. Europeans receive more paid benefits 100%. When I moved to England, my very first job, I got a month of vacation time off the bat. Off the bat. You know what I'm saying? And it was like, wow. Not to mention the work week is shorter as well. Like the work week is 32 hours, I believe, in the UK compared to 40 hours in America. So yeah, I mean, I would say overall, I would say that I prefer Europe to America. I think for me, my quality of life was improved because of my interests and things like that, like the traveling. I was able to travel to so many countries after I moved to England with, affordable fares, proximity. You can get flights from London, direct flights to like so many places in the world. And it was so affordable. I remember when I went to Egypt, I had a really nice hotel. Like I say, maybe like a 3-4 star for like $150 for the whole week. The whole week. Like it was amazing. And transatlantic travel is so freaking expensive. It's just like, I mean, again, it's a deterrent. They don't really want Americans to be traveling and coming over to Europe and going to Asia and going to Africa and seeing different ways of life that they might like. That a sizable amount of Americans like life abroad and prefer life abroad and move abroad if they are able to, because it's better. It's It's better, it's more affordable, it's less stressful, it's less violent. You get organic foods a lot of places. Just the quality of life is just better. And unfortunately, like a lot of Americans don't know that because they are in the groove and they've been brainwashed to think that this is the status quo, and they think probably this is how everybody else is living, but I'm here to tell you no. And I'm grateful for that exposure in my youth. um my parents made sure I world traveled and I got to see different lifestyles, and I decided, like, yeah, I love the pace in Ghana. I like tropical living. I like living in a safe community. I love living in a Black majority. So, this is a great place for me. Superstar Bella up to 12 weeks, but it's all unpaid. What? Maternity leave is unpaid? Oof. These stats are not great. IAS says who owns the companies that are hiring immigrants. I'll tell you who. Amazon, probably. Facebook, probably. All the big ass companies. I mean, we know Trump admitted that he built his Trump resorts and all that stuff with Mexican immigrants. Trump is one of the biggest like hypocrites out because he's coming for these immigrants neck, tooth and nail. He does business with them and he's married to one, and it's really an oxymoron. But who's counting? uh, I don't know about what you're talking about. Because no, I don't have any land, and building is not my first priority. My first priority is creating an asset. So I'm more interested in creating a business. That's what I'm working on. Um, assets and liabilities. I mean, not to say that land is not an asset, but if I just purchase land and it has to sit there because I'm not able to develop it right away, it becomes like a vacuum for money because you got to invest in it before it can actually turn a profit, versus maybe you can focus on your business and you can create that asset and then you use those profits to maybe buy land or build. And that's how I'm looking at it. You know what I'm saying? Because right now I'm trying to get the business rolling. So yeah. But yeah, that's sweet. Thank you for your well wishes. We definitely hope you should send a super chat to that, bro. Hello. Yes. Send a super chat to those wishes so we can wishfully think about the future, and something like that will be so nice. Yes. All right. Blockavelli said, I've lived outside the US for 5 years now. I love it. Yes, it's fantastic. Wow, that's really crazy about the maternity leave. Do we have any of our UK viewers? Are you able to tell us how much maternity time you get in the UK? What's up? All right, big shout outs, guys. All right, let's see if we have any of my British viewers to answer that. All right, I want to give a special shout out to my super chat donors. We have Anane and IAS Productions. Much love to my two and only super chat donors during this conversation. The takeaway is, guys, oh, thank you, Janelle. Janelle just got in there. Thanks, sweetheart. I see you there. Appreciate you. Much love to you as always. Yes. She says it depends on the job. Went back to work after 4 weeks, all unpaid. That is so ridiculous. Wow. Michael Penn is our maternity specialist, even though I asked for the ladies, but okay. He says in England, maternity leave is 52 weeks long for eligible employees. A whole year? Really? Okay, well, I don't know. I'm actually going to look that up so that we can be clear on it. But Michael O says Canada is 12 months of maternity leave with at least 50%. I believe it's about 70% of pay. Okay. Well, the US is tripping as usual, because how they expect you to be off with a brand new baby and no money is so cold. Blockavelli, thank you so much for your super chat, honey. Thanks to the family. I see y'all. Okay, I see y'all trying to show up for the girl. Okay, I guess this must be for the Ghana House Fund. Thank you guys. I'm not a scammer like a lot of your favorite YouTubers to just like try to scam you out of money to do stuff. You know, I just got to be straightforward. So thank you guys for that. I'm gonna go ahead and save Janelle's and Blockavelli's, you know, because I didn't mention that in the beginning. So I'll slide this 20 aside towards the Ghana Building Fund. Hallelujah. All right, guys. All right, I'm about to wrap up. God's Child says most companies give 6 weeks paid leave. Yeah, I'm thinking they gotta be paid though. But then again, I guess some of those like hourly jobs, maybe they might not. I don't know. But I think that's kind of crazy that they don't want to do maternity leave. Like, see, again, things that's not conducive of family. Because if I'm thinking about that, and I mean, obviously some people are in a situation where they don't have any support. Maybe they're like the only income in their house. For people that are like single parents, how are you supposed to negotiate 6 weeks off without no pay? I mean, that's crazy. You're gonna have rent during that time. You know, the baby needs to eat, gas, utilities. I mean, very crazy. I don't doubt this. I don't doubt this. Michael Penn says American companies don't want to grant employees paid parental leave because they fear that their workers won't be productive. I don't doubt that at all because they're just so scandalous. They're just so scandalous. Wow. I remember I know in the UK there was a male who took um paternity leave. It wasn't very long per se, but he was able to take some. I think the laws in the UK are different. A bit different in some ways. A bit more accommodating in some ways. But yeah. Okay, guys. Big shout outs to family. Oh yeah, that's right. Trump's executive order ends diversity, inclusion. What's the E? Wait a minute. Is it diversity, equality, and inclusion programs? I think that's what the DEI. I think that. Hold on. Don't quote me, guys. Look, I know. I'm so sad. I've forgotten everything. I'm pretty sure that's what DEI means. Diversity, equality, and include equity. Okay, equity. Okay, okay, okay. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. Okay. Yeah, I saw that, and that was quite dramatic. And see, look, y'all trying to get me talking. I'm trying to wrap this up, guys. But this is another reason, okay, that it's important to see the writing on the wall because a bunch of people just lost their job in the federal government. People that have literally been working in this department for decades, just like that, over. And I mean, I'm pretty sure those jobs were probably well paid jobs, but it's over. It's over. You know what I mean? It's just always the world we're living in is so chaotic and so unpredictable. It's different than our parents and grandparents' eras. We have to strategically consider that when we are designing our future. You cannot have all your eggs in one basket. You cannot. It's unwise because the probability of that basket getting shattered is so high. I think it's higher in this generation than ever before. Companies shut, companies merging. You got damn pyramid schemes, people losing everything, bro. And I mean, am I right or am I right? Typically, when you work for the government, you know, you feel like this is a stable place to be. You know, Kuna Matata. That's how most people feel when they get these jobs. Usually they're well paid, you know, have lots of benefits and all that stuff. You just never know. I don't think that he got rid of DEI because white women. I don't. Don't believe that. Because white people are his people. So he's not going to do anything that's going to like inconvenience them deliberately. I think he probably had a different target. Yes. Well, you said it more. You said it, God's child. All right, family. I'm wrapping up. I'm not about to do this with y'all. Y'all still making comments, but I'm done. Okay, because it's an hour and a half now. So, and it's very late here. It's like almost 4 a.m. That's Black belly. Okay, guys, I'm done. I'm done. Seriously. I love you guys. I'm going to see you soon. Perhaps I'll do a live stream tomorrow, okay, because I was busy all last week. And so big shout out to the African Superstar family. Please let us know your comments when you watch the playback. And again, keeping with the channel, say let's do more. Make this your year to implement your plans. You know what they are. You know what you should be doing. A lot of you, you know what you should be doing. You will have that internal feeling that is telling you, you know, okay, let's get the ball rolling. Let's get it popping. Let's move forward. You know, do not be a stumbling block. It's time is of the essence. Okay, guys. Until we meet again, stay black and true. If you ain't black, just stay true. Thank you, Michael Pan. Until we meet again.